At the beginning of the story, when Yuji did ask Satoru, "Are you stronger than Sukuna?" he said yes. That got my attention, since Sukuna was the focus of the story. So by saying that, in a way, the writers are undoing the hype and the importance of what he has already built so far. And this did intrigue me a lot, since this could mean that the writer has something special prepared. And that was the case, as we found out in episode 7. Everything in this episode is incredible, on so many levels. I didn't expect the word infinity to come up so early on in the story, in just 7 episodes, or 14 chapters. This is one of my favorite things that the great writers do. They don't hold anything back. They are not playing it safe. They go berserk. And that is the best mindset to have. The surest way to blow your audience's mind is to blow your own mind. Because that's the hardest thing, since you are the one who is writing the story. But if you manage to surprise yourself, then you will surprise your audience as well. Now, doing that doesn't come free. If things are not done right, the problems can be terrible going forward. It is very easy to find yourself backed into a corner. But I think the bigger the challenges the writer is facing, the better the solutions will be. And thus the story will be legendary. It is fiction after all. If you are not going to take risks writing a story, then where will you take risk? You cannot run out of creativity. In fact, the more you use it, the more you will have it. Now let's look at things in more details. One thing that might go unnoticed about this story because of the horror elements is how funny it is, when it wants to be. These scenes really made me laugh. When Satoru says to the cursed spirit, or the new humans apparently, "Hey, the whole idea about calling you guys special is because you are rare. But if you keep appearing this often, then that defeats the purpose of calling you guys special." The best humor is the one that comes from within the story, and it is true to the characters, and not inserting some dumb joke that has nothing to do with the story or the characters, and takes you out of the story instead of enhancing the experience. Marvel movies specialize in that. The balance of this story is impressive. There are times when there are funny or silly scenes, serious and informative scenes, and epic and mind-blowing scenes, and all of those are in one story called Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, let's talk about Satoru. I knew that he was strong, since he said to Yuji that he is stronger than Sukuna. By the way, I am wondering, did he know before meeting Sukuna inside Yuji's body that he is stronger than him in that state, maybe from the records that the organization has? Or after he fought him for 10 seconds, and that's why he did ask Yuji to switch with Sukuna, in order to find out who is stronger, him or Sukuna. Anyway, I was really amazed by the display of powers from both characters, but especially by Satoru. This made me think about certain mangakas that I did talk about their stories in my recent videos. If you want the audience to think that the characters are epic, well, you have to show it, not say it, or just wish it. There are no shortcuts, especially not in fiction, since by default you are at 0. Nothingness cannot blow people's minds. Infinity, on the other hand, can. At first I thought Satoru has an incredible amount of energy, and that's why none of the attacks had any effects. But as he said, there is an infinity between them. I find it quite ironic Satoru is gesturing with his fingers the size of infinity. I really appreciate small things like that. And also, this is one of the signs of the high-level writer. Besides both characters being great fighters and having interesting powers and displaying them in a glorious fashion, and thus the end result is an epic fight, but the writer did not stop there. After that, we see this powerful technique called domain expansion. Besides this technique being true to its name and being very powerful and epic, it really opens the door to a lot of things. I am impressed. We see another example of the domain expansion at the end of the episode, where people are just living inside, very casually. I wonder what's next. The writer can go in any way he wants, there is nothing stopping him. No matter which way he goes, it will make sense story-wise, because the foundations are there to support that. As I said earlier, you cannot run out of creativity. More will bring more. The domain of the cursed spirit was cool and very effective, but not against infinity. I'm very curious how exactly it does work. I don't think it is just in the mind. I don't think the spirit was overwhelmed mentally, because his domain and the other domain we saw in the episodes were physical. And also Satoru was holding Yuji. If this was just an illusion, then there is no need for him to hold Yuji. And Satoru was not holding Yuji when they were inside the domain of the spirit. I think that's due to Yuji getting lost as well. But besides physically, you are affected mentally as well as aided by the spirit. and whether Satoru can control who gets affected with his mind or he needs to touch them, it is not clear. But what is clear is that Yuji was not affected. Overall, I am really impressed by this power. It is amazing, and the fact that we got to see so early on in the story is epic. But do you know what is even more epic than that? The reveal of the eyes. I'm just kidding. But I didn't expect Satoru to look like that. He looks like a model. I expected it to look like a soldier that has seen many battles, that has stared into abyss. But again, another great surprise by the writer. What more can I want? Since I have a trained eye, it is very hard to get surprised. The only stories that can do that are mangas, since the mangakais are the only writers who are always striving forward and reaching new levels, and that's why mangas are superior to other stories. And lastly, let's talk about the movies mentioned in the story. In the previous episode, the writer called French movies terrible. I don't watch French movies, so I got curious why the writer is calling those movies terrible. And I did ask you guys, and those who did comment, they did agree with the writer. And in this episode, we got to see one of the movies that the writer considers a masterpiece. And I cannot agree with him more. I consider The Lord of the Rings the best movie ever. Besides manga stories, there are only two stories that I consider proper stories: The Lord of the Rings and Sherlock Holmes. To any other stories, thanks for trying. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.